Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Sports Night episode. Steve, is it 6?
It is number 6, yes.
Yeah, it is number 6. Well, welcome in, everybody, to episode 6 of Sports Night. I can never remember that. Steve remembers, and it's written right there. I should just look.
That's what I did.
Exactly. Well, welcome in, everybody, to a action-packed, fun-filled live stream night. I hope you guys have your popcorn. I hope you've gone to the bathroom because this is end game for live streams tonight. Let me tell you, we have a lot going on, and it starts with us, and it heads right into Disney Fiasco after us at 7 o'clock, and we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. Steve, you ready?
I am ready as I'm going to be.
Me too. Well, everybody, welcome in. We're glad you're here. Thanks for being here with us. Couple things real fast. Obviously, we want to say thank you to Dean over at the Live Place, liveplace.com, family-friendly live streams. Dean does great. He hosts all these live streams every single night. Monday through Sunday, you'll find a live stream. You go out there, you'll find somebody streaming at some point during the day. Obviously, my partner channel here, Steve, at Steve's World. Be sure to check him out if you haven't already, folks. Please go out there and subscribe to his channel. He's trying to get to 1,000. He's really, really close. We're almost there. And he goes live on Monday nights with Monday Madness. Right, Steve?
I do indeed, and we are doing a special Monday Madness, and I don't have my props here with me, but roughly once a month, we decided we're going to start doing something. Everybody seems to like trivia. We're going to do impossible trivia, and there might be a little something for the winner too. But I'm putting together a presentation for things that I notice in movies that a lot of people will not notice or remember.
Okay.
So Googling will be encouraged and needed at times, and so that's what we're doing this Monday in honor of the live action Aladdin coming out. We will be doing animated Aladdin trivia this weekend, or this Monday. So
very nice. And of course, my other partner channel, Dan from Disney Dan. Of course, like we said a little bit a minute ago, he's going to go live at 7 with a mega live stream for his 1-year anniversary of Disney Fiasco. As the birds are outside in the back fighting, I don't know if you guys can hear that.
I can hear them.
Yeah, I know they're going at it. Nature. But be sure to check out Dan right after this, and I don't want to hold on too much longer because we got a lot to get to tonight, and we only got an hour to do it. But I want to say hi to a few people in the chat. Steve from Steve's World, thanks for being here. Explosive Phoenix and Angela from Pirate Princess Red, thank you for being here. I appreciate everybody. I'm sure we'll get some more people coming in. We are earlier than what we normally go. Steve and I usually go after at 8. Hey, John, welcome in. John Hazelton, welcome in. Steve and I usually go at 8, which is after Disney Fiasco. So we're about 2 hours sooner than we normally would. But we didn't want to interrupt Dan's stream tonight because it's a big one. Right, Steve?
Absolutely. It's a 3-hour, 1-year celebration stream, which you and I will both be a part of as well.
Yep.
Disney Fiasco. I remember the first time I got on Disney Fiasco, was just super honored. That's when I felt like maybe you made it, when you get on Disney Fiasco. So I was, it was quite the adventure for sure. And I've since been on it, I think 4 times. So it's been pretty fun. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be epic.
It is going to be an epic night. But before that, tonight on Sports Night, we're going to have a fun stream because we're going to talk about, of course, the NFL draft is coming up not too much longer now. Actually, no, what am I thinking? We just had the draft, right? A couple weeks ago. Yes, we just had the draft. So we wanted to talk about the top 5 greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. Our opinions. For some of you, you may not agree with these opinions, but please, these are ours, and you're more than welcome in the chat to talk about yours as well. We'd love to hear from you as we get more people in here. We definitely want to hear from you and tell us who your favorites are. We're going to rank them from 5 down to number 1. We'll talk stats, we'll talk this, we'll talk awards, we'll talk that, and we'll give our reasons why. Now, Steve, the one thing I want to say is, hey, Jelly's Journeys, welcome in. Good to see you. Even if my number 5 is your number 1, we'll wait. Just tell me who your number 5 is, okay? We'll kind of do it that way to kind of leave the suspense just in case. All right?
Will do.
All right. And, of course, we're going to count them down from 5 to 1, and we each have 3 honorable mentions. And we're going to get started here. So, Steve, who is your number 5?
So I'm still looking at stats and things right now as I go. And my list, I think I put way too much emphasis on some of these things when I do these instead of just picking 5 guys I think are the best of all time. But my number 5 is John Elway. I went with John Elway. I thought he was a decently revolutionary quarterback who he won the Super Bowl twice at the end of his career, and then retired, got to go out on his own terms. Stat-wise, he's 11th all-time with touchdowns, 9th all-time in yards, 7th all-time in attempts, and 9th in completions. And he, of all the guys in my top 5, he played the least amount of seasons. He's only played 16 seasons. So he just from being not only being a quarterback, then he's been going on to become a great general manager, vice president, whatever it is of the Broncos. But he got to be the Broncos quarterback of their history. So, I don't have a lot more on him of what his awards were, but I was unprepared for that one. But my number 5 is John Elway.
Great pick. John Elway is, by the way, my favorite quarterback in NFL history, other than Kurt Warner, who I love too. Kurt Warner and John Elway are 1 and 1/8 for me. I saw John Elway's entire career. Now, let me just tell you, I live in Baltimore, and John Elway would not play for the Baltimore Colts. When he was drafted out of Stanford, Colts had the number 1 pick in the draft, and he said, I'm not playing for the Colts. But it wasn't because he didn't want to play for the Colts. He didn't want to play for Bob Irsay. And now you know why. If you know anything about Bob Irsay, you'll know why. He made the right decision. He made the right decision. The Colts traded him to Denver, and the rest is history. That's a great pick. John Elway, if you're down in the fourth quarter and you need a fourth quarter comeback, he's one of the guys you think of. He just is.
Absolutely.
Incredibly clutch quarterback who took, in my opinion, subpar teams to the Super Bowl. Now, when he got to the Super Bowl, that's when they were hard. Usually because they didn't do well because he had no help. I love the pick. I think it's a great pick. Miguel says he's at graduation and cannot stick around, but I just need to throw out there Dan Marino. Good pick. That's funny. And it's, you know what, Miguel, that is great timing because my number 5 is Dan Marino. And I'll tell you why he's number 5. And for a lot of people, they might be like, what? He's not higher? Well, I'll give you some stats. 420 touchdowns, 5th all time for a guy that played in the 80s. He's still 5th all time. 61,000 yards passing, like 5th all time as well. He had 8,300 attempts, which is also 5th all time. He threw a touchdown every 19.9 attempts. That's crazy. That's an incredible number. His passer rating was 86.4, which is kind of low. I mean, I think it was like tied for 30th all time. Hey, Kay Atwood, welcome in. His completion percentage was 59.4. He threw 252 interceptions, 9 Pro Bowls, 3-time All-Pro. And there's a difference between a Pro Bowl and an All-Pro. First team All-Pro is what you really want. Pro Bowls are votes. All-Pro that's the biggie. Hey, Jack Sandy Claus Logan, welcome in as well. He also had 10 playoff appearances. He didn't win a Super Bowl. And if that's the one knock I have on Dan Marino, that's it. He got there one time, and he didn't make it happen. He didn't win. He was an AP MVP, and he won the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. But he only got the one Super Bowl, and he didn't win. But that guy, was a revolutionary quarterback as well on teams that were pretty good. He made them great. And number 5 for me is Dan Marino. What do you think?
Well, Dan Marino's my number 4, so we can just go right. We can just go right into that. Yeah, he's an incredible quarterback. He, across some of the, I don't remember exactly how many. I know you said he was 5th all time in touchdowns. He's also 5th all time in yards, 5th all time in attempts, and 5th all time in completions as well. Mm-hmm. He made I don't remember how many of these you said. He made the first team All-Pro 3 times, the second team All-Pro 4 times. Mm-hmm. He was the MVP once in 1984. Yeah. He won Offensive Player of the Year. Just he's got a whole accolade. And the one thing I like about him, I love the fact when quarterbacks play for one team in their career and they're amongst the greatest in history. Mm-hmm. And Dan Marino was one of those guys that played for one. I'll be honest, I did not like the man back when he was playing, partially because my Colts used to be in their division. But if anybody ever deserved a Super Bowl that didn't get one, it's Dan Marino. And what he did was back when in what I would consider lesser athletic days, and his accomplishments for being what he did then are just as great as some of these other people. And his teams were not the greatest back then as well, not all of them. So he did have some good ones, and he had a good coach. But my number 4 was actually Dan Marino.
Yep, great pick. Again, Miami Dolphins. He's he is. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. Bob Griese's great. Don't get me wrong. Bob Griese's great. Bob Griese won Super Bowls, but he's not Dan Marino.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that's a great pick at number 4. My number 4 is a guy who's still playing, and in time could go higher on the list, but he's at number 4 for me right now, and that's Drew Brees. Okay, 18 seasons. 520 touchdowns, number 2 all time. 74,000 yards and counting. He's number 1. 9,700 attempts. He's number 2. He threw a touchdown for every 18.8 attempts. That's incredible. His passer rating, lifetime passer rating, is 97.7, which is 3rd all time. Completion percentage of 67%, which is number 1. He threw 233 interceptions, which is actually ranked 15th, which is good. You don't want to be ranked number 1 in interceptions.
Yes.
And he's 15. 12 Pro Bowls, only one time was he an All-Pro, though, first team All-Pro, which surprised me. That really surprised me. Other than that, he had 8 playoff appearances, 1 Super Bowl win, Super Bowl also the MVP of that win. He won the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, Comeback Player of the Year Award. And he had a passer rating of 114.5 with 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in that Super Bowl. So I think Drew Brees is a great, great quarterback. I'm not a big guy on putting into wins in Super Bowls because I think this is a team sport. I think a lot of guys have shown that it takes more than just one guy to win it. Although I do think quarterback is the most important position in any sport, period.
I agree with you.
But for me, Drew Brees is great. He may even get higher on this list. He's a great quarterback. He just doesn't have a lot of Super Bowls, and he hasn't been there that often either. So that's my number 4 for me is Drew Brees. What do you think of Drew Brees?
Yeah. He's actually going to be – he's on my honorable mention, and I'll be honest with you, I wanted to put him on the list instead of somebody else on my list. But for that same fact, depending on what stats you use, it just depends which stats you use to compare what great quarterbacks are. But he outranks most other quarterbacks in almost all stats that matter. So I wanted to put him on my list, and actually instead of my number 3, but I went ahead and put him as an honorable mention because I'd have got strung up and bad if I didn't put my number 3 on the list.
Well, for instance, I'll just say this. I'll give you an instance of the difference, what made Dan Marino so great. Dan Marino had 1,000 less attempts and was only 100 touchdowns behind him.
Yep.
1,000 attempts less. And Drew Brees ain't even done playing yet.
Yep.
And he's thrown 1,000 more balls than Dan Marino ever did, and Dan Marino's 100 behind him. And Dan Marino's played 17 seasons, and this guy's played 18 and still playing. So, I mean, that should put into a little bit of perspective just how good Dan Marino really was. And by the way, Dan Marino's a Hall of Famer. First ballot.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I believe everybody on our list will wind up being in the Hall of Fame as well. Some of them are still playing, some of them are not, but I do believe everybody on our list will wind up being in the Hall of Fame as well. So,
Kay Atwood says, sorry, my heart will always belong with Terry Bradshaw, Roger Staubach, and Joe Montana. Great quarterbacks. Roger Staubach's one of my favorites, too. Well, he's another one. So that's our number 4s. What about your number 3?
So now it's time to make people mad. And let me start by saying I didn't even want to put this guy on my list for reasons which we'll get into in just a minute. But my number 3 is Tom Brady. And everybody can argue that he's the best quarterback in history if they want to, but his stats don't lead that way. The top 2 that I put ahead of him on my list have better stats than he does. And he's played more seasons than other guys. So So I will say his stats, though. First off, he is third all-time in stats or in touchdowns with 517. He's fourth all-time in yards with 70,514. Fourth in attempts all-time, 9,375. And fourth in completions with 6,004. He has played 19 seasons, which is more than Dan Marino, more than John Elway, more than Drew Brees has so far. One of the biggest things that I think that make him amongst this list are his playoff accolades, not his season accolades, because the guy has won 6 Super Bowls. He's been in Super Bowl MVP 4 times, but he's only made the first team All-Pro 3 times, and he's only made the second team All-Pro twice. Dan Marino's done better than that. Now, I think Tom Brady has also been the benefit of better teams than these other guys on our lists have been. He's had phenomenal dynasties and teams built around him. But the one thing I do have a knock on him for is, number one, it's taken him – he's not past the rest of the guys on my list, and it's taken him more seasons to do some of them. Number two is Tom Brady has been caught. It's, in my opinion, just like the steroid era in baseball, if you're enhancing your game in any way, whether it be steroids or performance-enhancing drugs or by cheating – and getting caught with doing it, then that's also the same. They correlate with me. But what I keep telling everybody that just absolutely despises him is he is still talented. The problem is he did not need to do the things that he's done to win, because he is a talented quarterback. I think Drew Brees is a better quarterback than Tom Brady is. I think Drew Brees' numbers are better than Tom Brady's are, and most of them are better than Tom Brady's are in less seasons, and they're both still playing. So I'm going to make a lot of people mad, but I didn't even want to put the guy on the list, but I think because of his postseason accolades and his ability to win, I had to put him on there. I agree with you. It's a team sport, and he's had one heck of a team behind him across the board. And when he didn't have a team behind him, he didn't win. And then they went out and fixed that and got the team back, and then he won again. So I do think he's talented. I do think he's worthy of being amongst the list somewhere. But he's a lot higher on my list than I wanted to give him credit for. And so I put him at number 3.
Number 3. Okay, good pick. Very good. I'll leave it at that for now. He might make my list. He might not. I'll give you my reasoning as to why he does or doesn't when the time comes at that point.
Yeah, that's fine.
My number 3 is, hey, what's up, Jeff? Don't Whip Dad. Welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. We are talking all-time quarterbacks. Steve just did his number 3. It was Tom Brady.
And I didn't even want to put him on the list.
Exactly. Okay, so my number 3. All right, so how do I do this? My number 3 is probably, to me, the reason why he's number 3 is exactly what you just said as to why you even put Tom Brady on the list. I think this guy is the greatest regular season quarterback maybe in the history of the game. But he's not very good in the postseason. Steve, I hate to say it, but it's Peyton Manning. I love Peyton Manning. Okay, I think Peyton Manning might be the greatest regular season quarterback in the history of the game. 539 touchdowns, number 1 on the list. Probably not for long. Drew Brees will probably pass him. Probably.
Yep.
He's number 2 in yards. He's number 3 in attempts. He threw a touchdown every 17.4 attempts. That's unheard of, which is better than anybody else on my list. 17.4. He has a passer rating of 96.5, which is actually 7th, which surprises me because it's still fantastic. He had a completion percentage of 65.3% of his passes he completed, which is 5th all-time. He threw 251 interceptions, which is 9th all-time, which isn't great. But that being said, he's a 14-time Pro Bowler. He's a 7-time first-team All-Pro. 15 playoff appearances, 2 Super Bowls, Super Bowl MVP, 5-time NFL MVP. Mm-hmm. He's a Walter Payton Man of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, but he is 2-2 in the Super Bowl. And his Super Bowl numbers are not good. Passer rating of 77.4 with 3 touchdowns and 5 picks. That's why he's number 3 for me. I think he's fantastic, but when the time comes, I'll just leave it at that. I love him. He's one of my favorite players of all time. but I got to be honest. And Nacho Mejiga, welcome in. Good to see you. Steve, what do you think of Peyton Manning?
I think he's good. We'll wait and see if he makes my list or not.
Sure. Yeah, I love Peyton Manning. I loved him with the Colts, and I loved him with the Broncos. Didn't matter. He took 2 different teams to the Super Bowl and won with 2 different teams. Now, the second one, okay, that was probably the defensive end Super Bowl. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. You know who I'm talking about. The one.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember it. I remember the play. I just don't remember.
Yeah, against Cam Newton. He had the Super Bowl, but I was glad he got Omaha.
Yes.
You're right. But absolutely, I love Peyton Manning. One of my favorite players. And postseason, look, you don't even necessarily have to win. Von Miller, thank you. That's his name, Von Miller. Thanks, Jeff. Absolutely. You don't necessarily even have to win. If you perform well and still lose, obviously it ain't your fault. That's why he's number 3 for me. So you go. That's my number 3. And we are moving really good, so we're going to have to talk Disney, it looks like, when this is over.
Absolutely.
Yep. So who is your are you at 3 or are we at 2?
I'm already on number 2.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so we are down to number 2.
And when we do these top 5s, they seem to go really fast. We either need to get a guest or we need to maybe go top 10.
I know, right? Yep.
Okay, so my number 2 is a guy that has better stats than Tom Brady. This one actually did play one more season than Tom Brady has played so far, and that's Brett Favre. He's played 20 seasons compared to Brady's 19, but he's 4th all-time in touchdowns, 3rd all-time in yards, 1st all-time in attempts, 2nd all-time in completions at 6,300. So Brett Favre has won a Super Bowl. He's been to the Pro Bowl 11 times. He's a 3-time first-team All-Pro, which is the same as Tom Brady. He's a 3-time second-time team All-Pro, which is better than Brady. He's a 3-time MVP, which is the same as Brady. And he's been – most of his stats are comparable but he has better overall stats than Brady does. The thing I liked about Brett Favre the most, this is a guy that goes, it kind of goes towards one of my favorite quarterbacks as well as what I think is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. The guy was like a kid, and he could rejuvenate, even at 40 years old, could rejuvenate a team. And I think he did more for his team in the positivity, especially when he went to the Minnesota Vikings, when he turned that team around and made them compete again. They were bad because I follow the Vikings too. They're my second favorite team. When we heard we were getting him and we witnessed what he did for that team compared to what they were, it was flooring. I mean, it floored us what he did. But his numbers, like I said, are amongst the greatest of all time, and better than I know. Some of these numbers, some of these people, like you said, Drew Brees could change because he's still playing. Tom Brady is still playing. Some of the other people in my honorable mentions are still playing as well. But yeah, what he did for the game and what he did for his team as a team, he put his team ahead of himself. It made him one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, in my opinion. So Brett Favre is my number 2.
Number 2. Well, Brett Favre to me, you're probably gonna laugh at this, Steve, but Brett Favre to me is, in my opinion, one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the history of the game. He does not make my top 10, and I'll tell you why. I think that his numbers are bloated because of the fact he played so many seasons. He only won 1 Super Bowl. He has 336 interceptions, which is like 70 more than the next guy on the list.
Yep. We'll give you that part.
He is the only NFL quarterback that I can think of, and tell me if I'm wrong, to throw 6 interceptions in a playoff game. And you know how I know that? Mm-hmm. I was at the playoff game that he did it.
Oh, wow.
It was against the Rams in 2001. We won against them. He threw 6 picks in that game. Great quarterbacks don't throw that many picks in a playoff game. I just think they call him the gunslinger. I hate that. He was terrible. I mean, he's not terrible. He is a Hall of Famer. Don't get me wrong. He did exactly what you said. He did make teams better, but he lost games for teams. He did. He lost games for teams. And I think he was – I mean, I don't know. I think he is so overrated, and his numbers are bloated because he threw the ball so many times. But, you know.
But what is a quarterback supposed to do?
Well,
he threw the ball. He threw the ball because he needed to and he wanted to. And I guess I don't have a problem with a guy throwing the ball. If that's his position, that's what he does. But yes, like I said, I know that he did. Yes, the interceptions were high by far, the 336 of them. But the rest of his numbers are in line with the greatest of all time, numbers 1, 2, or 3. Most of his other numbers, maybe because he's only played one other season than Tom Brady, just one. Not in And now he's played two more than Drew Brees, 3 more than Dan Marino, and 4 more than John Elway. So by the time it's all said and done, Brees and Brady will have at least played the same number, if not more. And his numbers right now, some of them, I don't know if they can be touched by some of these other guys. They may be able to, they may not be able to. But he did throw a lot. He has thrown about 750 more attempts than Tom Brady has. Now give Tom another season. What do you throw a game? 30?
Well, he's going to throw almost 700 attempts. And in today's game, he'll throw at least 500 attempts.
So at the end of the season, when they're even, they'll have thrown about the same number of attempts.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Brady will catch Favre on those numbers. So, but he may not. We'll wait to see. So after the season, when they've played the same number of times, I still think Favre's numbers are going to be better than his. And except for interceptions, I'm okay with that. But they're going to have about the same number of attempts. And I know you said you don't like guys that sling the ball like that and just throw it all the time. Brady's going to pass him in attempts in the same number of seasons.
But here's the difference, and I love this part of the debate for this. There's throwing it, and there's throwing it wisely. Okay, that's the difference. And for me, Favre made too many blunders in that regard. He made bad decisions at bad times. You can't do that. And that's all I'm saying. You're right. Today's game is about throwing the ball. It is. That's what it's about. The game is about passing. So he's going to throw it a lot. That's just the nature of the game today. But for me, with Favre, he just made bad decisions way too much. That's all.
Yeah, he threw a lot riskier than Brady does, for sure.
Yeah. But, no, don't get me wrong. I would have took him on the Rams teams. I would have took him in a heartbeat.
And Jeff just said the quarterback's job is to win, and Favre did it, but he's still about number 10 for me.
Well, yeah, I just look at intangibles mean a lot to me. The numbers speak for themselves, but there's more to it than just the numbers. John Elway proves that.
Oh, absolutely.
His numbers aren't great, but he proves that. But you're right. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, and he should be a Hall of Famer. So I get you. Yep, I totally get it. So that's your number 2, right?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So my number 2 is Tom Brady. I'm not a Tom Brady fan at all. I can't stand Tom Brady. Okay, his first ever Super Bowl and his last Super Bowl, he beat my team both times. He beat the Rams. Okay, it is what it is. But I can't deny what I've seen in my life. The guy puts up great numbers every single year, and Jeff said it. Your job is to win. He wins. The guy has 517 touchdowns, like you said, 70,000 yards passing, 9,375 attempts. He throws a touchdown every 18.1 attempts. That's awesome. His passer rating is a 97.6, 64% completion rate. He's only thrown 170 interceptions. That's half what Brett Favre's thrown. It's crazy. Only 171 interceptions. That's ranked 47. He doesn't throw picks. 14 Pro Bowls, 3-time All-Pro, 16 playoff appearances, 6 Super Bowls, 6 Super Bowl wins. He's been to 9, 4 MVP Super Bowls. He's a 3-time NFL MVP. He's Comeback Player of the Year award. And here's the thing, 6-3 in the Super Bowl, 95.6 passer rating, 18 touchdowns to 6 picks, and he holds the record for the most yards in a Super Bowl with 505. Great players aren't always great. They're only great when they have to be. He's great when they have to be. I don't like him. I think he's in a weak division every single year. They got 6 wins off the top from the very beginning. They're going to beat the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bills 6 times. I'm with you.
Yep.
They get a bye every single year, and they get a home game every single year. His path to the Super Bowl is easier than most, but he still wins. And there's
he does, and we'll see. This will be a true test for them because they've lost their team. He's benefited, in my opinion. He has benefited from the greatest teams, and maybe if you want to call it a dynasty in the NFL, in my opinion, maybe NFL history. For the period that they've been winning, he's had complete teams. Some of these other guys, Brees hasn't had complete teams. Marino didn't have complete teams. Elway wasn't on the best teams. Brady has benefited from that. And like you said, he's benefited from being in one of the weakest divisions in the history of the constantly weak division in the history of the NFL.
Right.
And so, but his stats are still there. I give you that. But they're still not as, even with all that said and playing more games, his numbers. I don't put as much emphasis on one game like the Super Bowl as everybody else does. I put it on the entire body of work, and I put it on. Yeah, he won 6 Super Bowls because his team was the better team 6 times. They made it to more Super Bowls because they had a better team. When you put people like Drew Brees out there, who has some decent teams, but not as good as the Patriots have had, I think he works harder and does more for his team than Brady has to for his team. And I think that Brady's numbers of Super Bowls and Brady's postseason numbers have benefited from having better teams than these other quarterbacks.
Okay. And see, and again, I'll take exception on that. I don't think his teams have been that much better. His wide receivers, other than his 1 year with Randy Moss, and by the way, he went 16-0 and he threw 50 touchdowns. Who has he had as wide receivers? They're nobodies. Danny Amendola. What? I don't even remember the other guys. And these guys are nobodies. He's made them better. I'm sorry. Danny Amendola was with the Rams before he went to the Patriots, and he was nothing with us. He went to the Patriots, and he became a player. The guy just makes his receivers better. Look where he puts the ball. He puts the ball where the ball needs to be. I hate him. I don't even like Tom Brady. I don't want him on my list. But great is great is great.
I didn't want him on my list either, but I had to put him on there. So
yeah. I mean, I don't want Wes Welker. But see, I don't think Wes Welker would be elite anywhere else other than with Tom Brady, Jeff.
I thought he's had a history of pretty decent wide receivers, but I think he's also had he's benefited from some of the best 2 tandem tight end combinations the game has ever seen, and maybe the best tight end the game has ever seen.
Oh, and Gronkowski, absolutely.
Yeah.
But is Gronkowski
like I said,
the same player somewhere else?
But like I said, those guys have retired. This Gronk's done. Some of his receivers are gone this year. We'll see how well he is. He's also benefited. It's not just about receivers. It's also benefited from how much protection he's had too. And Tom Brady has had an offensive line that's protected him for his entire career except once.
Yeah. I agree. Look, if you took Tom Brady and made him play in the era in the 70s and 80s, he wouldn't be the guy he is. Okay? Because he's protected the way he's protected and the way they protect quarterbacks. Absolutely agree 100%. But we can't change that. And he's taking advantage of that. As much as I hate to say it, he's taking advantage of that. What are you going to do? I mean,
absolutely.
But I'm with you. I mean, I totally get it. But I can't deny 9 Super Bowls. I mean, nobody else is even close. Nobody else has even got half.
Jeff says, oh, man, I'm talking to my screen so much on this one. You guys can hear me, right?
Jeff, I wanted to have you on. Oh my God!
And like Kay just said too, that's the other part. And that's the reason why he moved down the list until number 3 on my list as well, is because I'm not going to speculate. His numbers are his numbers, but he's also been caught cheating, like we mentioned earlier. He has been caught doing things multiple times that he shouldn't be doing. I don't think he needs to do those things to win. That's my opinion, because he is a good quarterback. But at the same time, he has been caught doing things. How many times has he been not caught doing things that we don't know about? But again, you cannot deny his talent. He is a talented quarterback, one of the best the game has ever seen.
Yeah, and I don't know. I can't speak on the deflating or inflating of the ball. I don't know how much of a difference that makes. I don't know. I mean, look, every quarterback has their own football. They all do it. They all do something with the football because it's their football that comes out on the field. I don't know. I don't know if it makes a difference. It might make a difference. Who knows? I have no idea.
Well, and it's not just that. I mean, it's. I know there's seasons where his defensive coordinators were passing in the defensive plays to him because they had them, but their mics bugged or something. I mean, there's been a history of things the Patriots have done to benefit themselves.
Yeah,
and Tom Brady.
Spygate was against
Spygate. Spygate. So, I mean, they don't need to do that to win. That's the problem. They don't need to do that. They're that good that they could have done it without it, but they didn't. So, hey, Shep, how you doing, buddy?
Well, we are down to number 1. Hey, Shep family, welcome in. I guess I'm behind because I'm not seeing that right away. Oh. Hey, Shep family, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Oh, happy birthday to your sister, by the way. But
make sure you're live, Walt.
I am live. You know why? Because I'm not watching. No, I'm live. That's weird. I'm watching the chat on the channel on the YouTube. I guess you are too, right?
Yeah, I'm watching. Yeah, I'm watching here too.
Yeah, it might just take a second. It's only about a second behind. But all right. Well, we are down to number. Well, I'm sure
Jeff
we
just
don't have
said.
the same guy.
Yeah, Jeff said. Well, I know we don't have the same guy. Jeff said I deflated every ball they ever gave me back in high school.
See? Does that make him a cheater?
Well, apparently you're not supposed to do that. So.
Jeff, you shouldn't have told us that. Oh, you're funny. Go ahead, man. Number 1.
You said you thought we did have the same player?
I think we do.
We don't for sure, 100%. Because my guy has already been on your list.
Oh, really?
And for all the reasons that you said earlier, for all the stats he leads, for doing it with a worse team and doing it with 0 offensive line, everybody can say this is a homer pick if they want to. I could care less. But the stats do not lie with Peyton Manning's numbers. Peyton Manning benefited. Number 1, he's, again, comparing him to Tom Brady like everybody likes to do. He's played less seasons. They have thrown within 5 attempts of the exact same number of attempts. So there's only a 5 attempt difference between the two of them. And Manning has thrown 2nd all-time in yards, 1st all-time in touchdowns, 3rd all-time in completions for all the exact same reasons you mentioned earlier. A 14-time Pro Bowl, a 7-time first-team All-Pro, which is not happening by anybody else. 3-time second-team All-Pro. He's won 5 MVPs. I don't know how many other people have done that.
I agree.
Nobody else has done that. Again, I don't put the emphasis on one game as like a Super Bowl like everybody else may, but he's also, I mean, he's just won countless numbers of awards, had shoulder surgery. Oh, you know what? And I take that back because he hasn't played 18 seasons because he sat out. So he's only actually played 2 seasons less than Tom has. But he turned around and went to Denver and continued to win. And yes, the defense may have helped him there, but this guy did all of his accolades without having the protection that these other guys had. Because I sat through those days when he would get crushed 30 times a game. I sat through those days when all this happened, and yet he put up better numbers than anybody else on my list. He's, again, I know you weight the Super Bowls a lot more than I would. Just like Dan Marino made my list without winning a Super Bowl. That Super Bowl is all about your team. And if you want to talk about somebody who made receivers better, it was definitely Peyton Manning. And yeah, and Perfectly Cat says, and Manning is a funny guy. Dole Whip Dad also says that Manning is number 2 for him. He wanted to put him at 1, but he just couldn't. But he said he's so good and he loves Manning. I can't argue with any of these stats. The only thing that I can even come close to seeing why he wouldn't be the number 1 quarterback on this list is because if you put the weight on the Super Bowls, and he has won 2 of them. Like I said, there's some guys that haven't won it, and he's been a Super Bowl MVP. But
yes, absolutely.
All this aside, though, I can't argue with his stats. He's my number 1 for sure.
Absolutely, I have no problem with that pick whatsoever. For me, I'll be honest with you. I don't put a ton into Super Bowl wins because you're right. I put a ton into Super Bowl performances, how you perform in the Super Bowl. And I'll say this about Peyton Manning. The reason why he wasn't higher on my list is because he did have Reggie Wayne. He did have Marvin Harrison, who will be a Hall of Famer. He does have he did have Marshall Faulk for a while, who was also a Hall of Famer, or is a Hall of Famer. So he's had players. But that being said, I totally get it. I could totally see him being number one. He is. I'm still saying he's the greatest regular season quarterback ever. Period. I'll say that right now. But playoffs, postseason means something. It just does. It just does.
And again, I can't disagree that doesn't mean something, but I don't put the weight. I put the entire body versus the postseason any day. I think the entire body of work means more. And to go back to people like to Reggie Wayne, for instance, and I'm not going to say that Reggie Wayne was in his prime when he left, but all these receivers that we had throughout the years that Peyton Manning made better, when they went to other teams, you never heard of them again. Reggie Wayne went to play with Tom Brady after he left the Colts. He didn't
at
do
the end
anything.
of his career.
I said it was at the end, but the year before that, playing with Peyton when he played with Peyton Manning, his last year with Manning, had great numbers. Didn't anywhere else.
But
he's
made people better. Oh yeah.
What's that?
I said Peyton's made people better. Absolutely.
Oh, for sure. And anytime that a receiver or anybody else left Peyton Manning, they were never the same. And I'm not going to say some of them were at the end of their career, because some of them were at the end of their career. But I'm just talking about from one season to the next, they fell off the earth basically when it came to that. So I think his numbers are better than most everybody else. He did more with his team because they were not good. When he was drafted, I think they won one game.
Yeah, 1-15.
So,
yep.
I mean, he had to do a lot with far less than anybody else did, and his offensive line never protected him. It's been a knock on the Colts for years, and that's still a knock with Andrew Luck. It broke my heart when they got rid of him, but I was in favor of them getting rid of him because you had to make a business decision. He wasn't the same. He wasn't going to be the same, and we had what could be a stud in Andrew Luck coming through. And it broke my heart to say goodbye to him, but it had to happen. It was a business decision. And but I still think he's still the greatest quarterback of all time. I didn't care if he left or not.
Yep. Yeah. Jeff said a good point. Jeff Saturday was pretty studly, though. He definitely helped him.
Yeah. But he did say Manning and Harrison are both going to be Hall of Famers because of Manning. If they played for any other team, I don't think they would have been as good.
Right. Well, look, it depends on who they played for. I don't know. I mean, that's something else we can have a debate on one day. Does the quarterback make the receiver, or does the receiver make the quarterback? Because
and I think it depends on who is who. There are such.
Well, we're going to get into that because with my number one pick, that's one of the things we can come up with. Because, go ahead. I'm sorry, you didn't finish your number one.
That was my number one.
Oh, it was okay. Well, look, my number one. I have to look at again the whole body of work as well. I also look at intangibles of what they bring to their team and what they bring to their city and what they've done when it matters most. Because I'm sorry, I'll say it again. I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. Great players aren't always great, but they are great when they have to be. I hate this guy. He was on my arch enemy team, and he put up unbelievable numbers. And I still say he's the greatest quarterback of all time. And he went to another team and took a terrible team to the AFC Championship in one of his only seasons there. And that's Joe Montana. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I don't like the guy. He was on the 49ers, and I was a Rams fan, and he kicked the crap out of us every year. But the guy was unbelievable. He played in a time when they didn't pass the ball like they do today, anywhere near as much as they did. Now, I don't think he's the greatest passer of all time, but I think he's the greatest quarterback, and there's a difference. You can be a passer, but you can be a quarterback too. There's a difference. Joe Montana, 273 touchdowns, 40,000 yards. Didn't throw a lot of yards. 19th and 17th respectively. But he only had 5,000 attempts. He only threw the ball 5,300 times. He threw a touchdown every 19.7 attempts. That's incredible. He threw touchdowns. His completion percentage was 63%. He only threw 139 interceptions. That's it. 139. 8 Pro Bowls, 3-time All-Pro, 11 playoff appearances, and then this is where it just goes off the charts. 4 Super Bowl wins, 4-0. 3 Super Bowl MVPs, and the only one he didn't get it in was the one Jerry Rice got it, and he could have got it in that one. two-time NFL MVP, comeback player of the year award. But here's the numbers that are amazing. 4-0 in Super Bowls, passer rating of 127.8 combined in all 4 Super Bowls, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions in 4 Super Bowls. Oh, and he did rush for 2 rushing touchdowns in those Super Bowls. He was the greatest of the greatest of the greatest in the greatest stage at the greatest moments. End of story. I'm sorry. Was he Jerry Rice, or was Jerry Rice him? Was he Dwight Clark and Rodney Solomon, or were they him? You can debate that. Was he not Jay Novacek? I can't think of the tight end besides Dwight Clark. They had the other one there too. But Joe Montana was great. He took a Kansas City Chiefs team that was terrible when he was 39 years old and took him to the AFC Championship game. The guy is just – I hated him. He could be my team all the time. But Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback in the history of the game for me. That's just my opinion. Thoughts on
for some of those reasons that you mentioned, as far as control, the ability to control a team, the ability to change plays, the ability to do that, that's the exact same reasons I picked Peyton Manning. Joe Montana was the first one on my honorable mentions list. He was the one I would have replaced Tom Brady with if I could have replaced Tom Brady. But the difference I have is all those extremely positive accolades you just mentioned were his 4 Super Bowls. Again, I don't put as much weight on 4 games as I do the entire body of work, and the entire body of work stats. I look at stats more than I do Super Bowl wins or
but
performances.
You also look at when they played, right? Because he played in an era when they don't throw like they throw now.
And
shows that
and
in the
again,
attempts.
But if you double his attempts,
he'd be right there.
You double his stats, he would become second all time in interceptions.
Right,
behind
but
Brett
he'd
Favre.
also be second in. But he'd still have the 4 NFL. He'd still have the 4 championships. He'd still be 4-0. He'd still. I'm just saying.
Again,
I got you.
I'm not debating those at all. I just don't put the emphasis on 4 games like that. I don't care if they're Super Bowl or just 4 regular games at all. Yes, he performed well in those Super Bowls. No doubt about it. Hands down, deserved 4 MVPs in those Super Bowls. But again, it's only 4 games, in my opinion. It's 4 games. Yes, they're the championship. Yes, there is some merit to that. As far as talking about stats and great, Eli Manning's got 2 Super Bowls and 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Does he deserve to be even on this list? Because some of these guys don't even have Super Bowls. I don't think that those games, yes, they're important. I'm not downgrading the Super Bowl by any means, but I don't think a quarterback's merit should be made on just 4 games. That being said, Joe Montana's on my list. I mean, he's one of the greatest that ever played the game by far.
Yeah. Oh, I'm with you. It all depends on what you consider to be important, and that's what makes these lists so great.
And the reason why, like I said, he's the one I would have replaced Tom Brady with because he was a floor general. I go by stats more than anything.
Well, let me ask you this. Just looking at Joe Montana's stats.
Yes.
Take away all 4 Super Bowls. Let's say he never won a Super Bowl. Would he even be mentioned? Absolutely not. That's how important the Super Bowls are. But that's what I'm saying. But that's how important they are. He doesn't even an afterthought. He's not even an afterthought if he doesn't have 4 Super Bowls. Where's Terry Bradshaw? He's not on this list. He's won 4 Super Bowls. So I get what you're saying, but it's a matter of I get what you're saying. I totally get it. And I have no problem with Peyton Manning being number 1. Like I said, I love Peyton Manning. I think he's great. But I don't know. I'm with you, man.
That's why I like this so much because we go back and forth. It's just differing opinions. But all in all, when you look at our top 10 is pretty much the same. Except for one. I think Brett Favre is deservedly so being there. You said he might not make your top 10, but so they're all there. It's just it's what you consider. I use stats, overall stats. Again, not postseason stats, because sometimes it's just not as. I don't want to say it's not as fair. Some guys benefit from playing on better teams or making their teams better, however you want to look at it. Some of them do make their teams better, but some of them benefit from making their teams or from better teams. And I think that's indicative of Tom. That's my opinion. I think Tom Brady has played on better teams than anybody else on our list. Right. If you put Tom Brady in Miami, Tom Brady has 0 Super Bowls, in my opinion. I don't think he wouldn't have had a Super Bowl. I don't think he would have had any, I don't think he would have had anything.
Can I ask you a question, though?
Yes.
If you put Peyton Manning in that, would he have 2 Super Bowls? No.
I think so. Yes, because listen here, this is the reason why. Because I was here at those 0-16 and 115 seasons. Peyton Manning made the worst team in the history of NFL what it was. Tom Brady did not make his team as good as it is. They were already a winning team. They became a winning team.
But they had never won a Super Bowl before Tom Brady got there. They've won 6 since he's been there.
I just don't put the weight, like you said, he plays in the weakest division. I think his road to get there is easier because they're usually the number 1 seed. Been caught multiple times cheating. I don't put as much weight on getting there or that as I think it's, again, his team that gets him there. He's the biggest part of that team. I'm not downplaying his talent whatsoever. I just think he's benefited from being on teams where guys have not. Like you said, Peyton Manning's won 2 Super Bowls. He did it going to a 0-16 team and a 1-15 team the second year. So now they did start getting players, but they've never had anything like New England's has. And I don't think Reggie Wayne, like Jeff said, I don't think Reggie Wayne or Marvin Harrison would have been as near as good as they are without him. I don't even think they would even be in the discussion.
Right, but here's my thing, and this is what I'm saying. I understand that he was 1-15 and whatever, but so were the Dallas Cowboys when they got Troy Aikman, and he turned it around and he won 3 Super Bowls. But does he make the list? No, he doesn't make the list. But you're right.
My top 10.
Darn right, and he should be. Absolutely, he should be. I'm with you 100%. But all I'm saying is, you're right. Look, this is what makes this so great. We got 8 minutes.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
Well, and Jeff makes a good point, and I do agree with this. He says Brady and Belichick, if they go to Buffalo, they win championships. I agree. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. He helps to – look, you know why they won the Super Bowl against the Rams back in February? It was Bill Belichick. Brady didn't play well.
Absolutely.
He didn't play well. Belichick outcoached McVay, plain and simple. Because the Rams defense, if you had told me they were going to score, the Patriots were only going to score 13 points, I would have said we'll beat them by 2 touchdowns. We were averaging 30 points a game.
And McVay admittedly said he got outcoached, and he did. He's young, and he got outcoached.
Right.
I know. In-game moments. In-game moments, he got outcoached.
Yep. And Roger Staubach, Atwood says, Captain America Roger Staubach was not on your list. I love Roger Staubach, and for his time, he's a great quarterback. One of my favorites. I love him. So real fast, who are your honorable mentions?
Drew Brees was on there, Joe Montana, and I had Aaron Rodgers as well. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have some I think he's going to wind up as one of the better quarterbacks in the history of the game. And I only put him on my list because I wanted to make note that I think he's got several years left. He's going to be amongst this list when we're done. Yeah,
good picks. So my honorable mentions are Johnny Unitas. I think Johnny Unitas is totally underrated. 3-time AP MVP, 10 Pro Bowls, 5-time All-Pro, 6 playoff appearances. He won a Super Bowl. He held the record for 47 consecutive games with a touchdown pass. Back when he played. Are you kidding me? 47 straight games. Johnny Unitas was one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. He had 290 touchdowns, which is still 15th all time, which is crazy.
And he played for both Baltimore and Indianapolis Colts, right?
No.
Didn't he play for both?
No. He was well retired by then.
Was he? Okay.
No. Yeah, he didn't play. But great quarterback, by the way. John Elway, of course, makes my list. I love John Elway. I think he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. One of the best running quarterbacks as well. He could beat you with his feet as much as he could his arm. But one of the guys that makes it for me, and you're going to laugh, it's not a homer pick, but I just think he's great for a guy that hardly played any season. I think Kurt Warner is a really great quarterback. He's a Hall of Famer. He played 12 seasons. He didn't throw a lot of touchdowns, but he threw touchdowns in every 19.5 attempts. So when he threw the ball, he threw it in the end zone. He had a 65.4 completion percentage in his career, 4th all time. He had a 93.7 passer rating, which is fantastic. 4-time Pro Bowl, 2-time All-Pro. He went 5 playoff appearances. He took 2 different teams to Super Bowls. He won a Super Bowl. It was an MVP, NFL Walter Payton Man of the Year award. And in the Super Bowl, he only won 1, but it wasn't his fault he lost the 2. He has a 96.7 passer rating in Super Bowls with 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he averaged 385 yards a Super Bowl. He has 3 of the top 6 passing Super Bowl in the history. And Kurt Warner, I think he's great. He's not a top 5 by any means, but I think he's better than people. And he only played 12 seasons. He didn't start playing football. He was 27 when he first got his start.
And he didn't peak at the beginning either. He was not as good in the beginning seasons that he started playing. And when they went from LA and they got moved to, what was it, St. Louis? They got moved to?
Well,
the Rams.
His stories, no, they were in St. Louis for a few years when they were terrible.
Before he got there?
Yeah, before he got there. He was you ever heard his story? You got to watch his story.
I know he's a strong Christian man. I know he's got a good story. We may have to save for another time because we only have 3 minutes. But I agree with you. He is a fantastic individual person, and I think he's a great quarterback. Was a great quarterback. He just didn't have the seasons to back it, to get the stats, to do all this stuff.
No, not at all. But
he is definitely a good quarterback.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yep. Trent Green got hurt, and that's when it all started for the Rams and his history. I agree. I have to tell you that one time. But anybody,
you do know who we have to thank for Tom Brady, right?
Yeah, and Drew Bledsoe.
No, we have the Colts to thank for that because they took Drew Bledsoe out, and Tom Brady, a 5th-round pick, got thrown into the game. So not only is he our nemesis, but we're the reason he's there. So
it's true. Yep. All right. Well, everybody, I want to thank you. Hey, Dan, welcome in. I didn't even see Dan came in. I'm sorry, Danny, buddy. 5 minutes to go.
He gave us a friendly reminder.
Yep. That's our 3-minute warning. But thank you to everybody that came in. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Steve.
I was just going to say that you and I will both be on Disney Fiasco from 8 to 9 tonight. That is our time slot that we're joining Dan for. So if you guys can head over to Dan for sure. Somebody put his link in there. Pirate Princess Red just did. Make sure you go there. It's a 3-hour special for Dan's 1-year Disney Fiasco anniversary. So
Yep. But thank you to everybody again. Steve goes live on Monday nights with Monday Madness. I'll be back on Tuesday with Mouse Madness and Thursday with Melissa with Disney Talk Thursdays. Tomorrow, Dan and I are doing a special Star Wars Sunday. We will be reviewing with Jeff from Dole with Dad. We will be reviewing Solo, a Star Wars movie, at 4 p.m. So be sure to check us out.
That's on your channel, right?
It's going to be on my channel, Mouse Talk. Yes, sir. Thank you. But thank you again, Steve. I hope you had a good time with this, buddy.
Always, man. Always. I look forward to this night. Get to spend time with you, my buddy, my partner, and then we get to debate and have some fun. So
and Explosive Phoenix on tonight at 9 o'clock as well, folks. If you can check him out, please be sure to do so. All right, guys. Well, thank you all very much for joining us. Hope to see you all soon. Again, thanks to Dean over at the Live Place. Don't want to forget him. Thank you all in the chat for being here. It definitely means a lot to us. And take care of yourselves and each other. And we'll talk to you all soon. Bye,
guys.